Last week, President Trump called the Federal Reserve the most difficult problem the U.S. faces. While he was specifically pointing to its rising of interest rates, our problems with the Federal Reserve go much deeper. We'll discuss its shadowy existence in this episode of Analysis Behind the News, where we provide the perspective that you can use to save American liberty and independence. Let's travel back in time 109 years to 1910. On a bitterly cold evening in November, 6 men met at a railway station in New Jersey. The instructions sent to them were to arrive separately, avoid reporters, and to avoid each other, pretending they didn't know each other. Upon arrival, they were to quickly make their way to a private rail car, where even the porters and servants didn't know the names of those coming aboard. In fact, the 6 men were told to use first names only to avoid revealing their identities. But we know their identities, and see if you pick up the common thread they all share. The first was U.S. Senator Nelson Aldrich, who was chairman of the National Monetary Commission and business associate of banking tycoon J.P. Morgan. The second was Abraham Andrew, Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Treasury. Number 3 was Frank Vanderlip, President of the National City Bank of New York, then considered the most powerful bank. Number 4 was Henry Davison, Senior Partner at the J.P. Morgan Company. The 5th was Benjamin Strong, head of J.P. Morgan's Bankers Trust Company. And the final man in attendance was Paul Warburg, a partner at Kuhn, Loeb and Company, which was an international investment banking house. Mr. Warburg was also a representative of the Rothschild banking dynasty in England and France. His brother Max was in charge of the Warburg Banking Consortium in Germany and the Netherlands. Certainly you picked up that the common thread between these men is that of banking, because at the time, these 6 men represented an estimated 25% of the world's total wealth. But because the rail car was the personal car of Senator Aldrich, having his name posted on it, newspaper reporters approached the car and started asking questions once it arrived nearly 800 miles south in a small town in Georgia. The reporters walked away after being told that these were merely close friends being treated to some duck hunting on a small island just off of Georgia's coast. That island was called Jekyll Island, which was owned by J.P. Morgan and several of his business associates. For 9 days, these men kept to their first name only rule, and a select group of servants were brought in to make up the support staff. The regular staff was given time off to help avoid any identification of these men. And as G. Edward Griffin wrote in The Creature from Jekyll Island, so we find the first of several passages here. It is difficult to imagine any event in history, including preparation for war, that was shielded from public view with greater mystery and secrecy. So what were these men doing, and what does it have to do with our topic today? Well, let's continue reading, shall we? The purpose of this journey was not to hunt ducks. Simply stated, it was to come to an agreement on the structure and operation of a banking cartel. The goal, as is true with all cartels, was to maximize profits by minimizing competition between members, to make it difficult for new competitors to enter the field, and to utilize the police power of government to enforce the cartel agreement. In more specific terms, it was to create a blueprint for the Federal Reserve System. Now, Mr. Vanderlip admitted to as much in a 1935 article that he wrote for the Saturday Evening Post. He wrote, "If it were to be exposed publicly that our particular group had got together and written a banking bill, that bill would have no chance whatsoever of passage by Congress. But the meeting wasn't exposed before the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 was passed. And it was passed under the illusion that it would help to stabilize our economy. Mr. Griffin noted that even the most naive student would sense a grave contradiction between this cherished view and the system's actual performance. Since its inception, it has presided over the crashes of 1921 and 1929, the Great Depression of 29 to 39, recessions in 53, 57, 69, 75, and 81, and of course we can add 2008, a stock market Black Monday in 87, and a 1,000% inflation which has destroyed 90% of the dollar's purchasing power. And he writes on here, let us be more specific on that last point. By 1990, an annual income of $10,000 was required to buy what took only $1,000 in 1914. That incredible loss in value was quietly transferred to the federal government in the form of hidden taxation, and the Federal Reserve System was the mechanism by which it was accomplished. And just that point alone should be enough for all of us to demand that the Fed be abolished. But Mr. Griffin offers 6 others, including that the Fed actually encourages war, it destabilizes the economy, and is an instrument of totalitarianism. The whole point is that in a free market-based economy operating on sound money principles, there would be no need for money to be managed. But the way must be clear to do so, including not just abolishing the Federal Reserve, but repealing the income tax and restoring fiscal responsibility to the federal government. By taking away the unlimited amount of money that those in our government enjoy, will actually starve the beast, and the burden of indebtedness will be lifted from future generations of Americans. We encourage you to learn more from Mr. Griffin's most excellent book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Then, we ask for your help in restoring and protecting American liberty and independence by joining the John Birch Society. Apply for membership at jbs.org/join. And please subscribe and like and share this video with others.